Welcome to the Socialize Strategy, Friday, May 24th. And today we have a very special guest with us for the strategy session. And I'm going to start off using the words she uses on her website to describe herself because I just kind of love it. Lorraine Ladish, woman, mom, wife, daughter, sister, friend, writer, entrepreneur, yogini, and I'm going to add successful content creator and influencer. And that is quite a resume, Lorraine. I'm really impressed. So, Lorraine was a writer and a journalist who lost it all in 2008 when a lot of people were struggling, but she literally lost it all and was on welfare as a single mom. She quickly realized that she did not have to switch careers to turn her life around, and she just had to take her skills online. She started blogging in 2006 and then created her own platform, viva50.com, in 2014 as she entered a new decade, 50 plus, and decided to turn this thing called social media content creation into a full time job. So she was truly an early adopter of all things related to social media. Truly, you were, including using it for social good, which I am going to ask her about. Thank you, Lorraine, for agreeing to this workshop podcast and doing it live with guests. That is so appreciated. I'm so excited to have you here.
I don't know who's more excited, quite honestly.
So we connected a while back, Lorraine, and sometimes you just hit it off with someone online. I was surprised because having such a big following on Instagram, she has 45,600 followers on Instagram, is also on TikTok, but I think Instagram is where I really became aware of you. And you responded to some of my messages. So let's talk a little bit about how we first found each other because you have to remind me of something that I don't remember. How did you first start following me and how'd that come to pass?
So Reels had started and I was resistant to do one more thing. And finally I had to give in, of course. And I was having a hard time figuring myself out. And then somebody that we both follow, Maria Strong, who by then I think I had interviewed for my YouTube channel, said, follow this person. She's doing crazy stuff and you're going to learn a lot. So I followed you on TikTok, but then I made it my business to find you on every other place that I could fathom.
You are resourceful,
Yeah, and I
amazing.
reached out to you. I think it was on Instagram because that's my favorite. I mean, I'm more comfortable on Instagram. And I think I told you, hey, I love all your tutorials and this and that. And in fact, I would send you some of the things I was trying for feedback from you.
For
So
feedback.
it was during the pandemic, that's for
And
sure.
and you know what I also remember very, very strongly about you is that you always shared my lessons. And I thought, she's got this huge following and she's taking the time to share my lessons. And I don't have a huge following on Instagram. It's very slow growth for me. I really lean into
For me
TikTok.
too.
That's where
For
I
me
put my
too.
yes, it's just slow. So I was so appreciative that I was honored that you were happy to share my lessons and just give of yourself to someone that you didn't, we just had met. And I really thank you for that belatedly.
Well, and you thanked me back then too, but I think that hustlers, and I mean in a really good way, like somebody who works and grinds and does the stuff, we recognize each other,
Mm.
you know?
Yes.
And there are so many people who are like whiny about things, and
Mm.
when you recognize someone who does the stuff, then
Yeah.
you're like, that's my person.
Doer. Yes, we
Yes,
are
yes,
doers.
yes.
All right. So
Yep.
let's talk about how you realized. I know that I said in the intro that you quickly realized you didn't have to switch careers to make a transition. But I'm sure it wasn't like magic you just woke up one
No,
day.
hell
So
no.
tell us a little bit about, I know you have a lot to share and we want to get into the meat of the matter. So just briefly, a little bit about what made you wake up and think this is something you can do and make money at.
Okay, so first of all, preface it very briefly by saying I'm a published author. I've written and published 18 books. I had that. I was a journalist. I knew how to meet deadlines. I've always worked for myself since the age of 18 or 20, always. So I think that's very important to realize because I already had those skills of working for myself, being accountable, etc. I had lost my analog gig, so to speak, in 2008 with regular publications. I was writing for the Palm Beach Post. And so those things dried up. And I was kind of online, but Facebook was barely starting. I was 2 years late into joining Twitter, and I kicked myself for it later. That's why I immediately grabbed my handle on every platform, no matter whether I'm going to use it or not, because you never know.
Mm-hmm.
And so then at the very beginning of losing everything, my marriage, my just everything. I had nothing. I had so much debt that eventually I had to file for bankruptcy. That was harder than the divorce. I was in my 40s. And being half Spanish, my family in Spain said, why don't you just come back and be here in Spain? I was like, you know what? At 40 some with two little kids, what the hell am I going to do there? It's not as easy in Spain to be yourself and hustle like here. So I did try to have a regular job, like anything menial, just work at a supermarket, be a bartender, whatever. But I had never had a job by choice, and I was unemployable. And so that did force me to be on welfare for a year, actually. So it wasn't like,
Mm.
whoa, 2 days. It was hard. It was very hard. And I did a little bit of direct selling. But then a bunch of people that I had interviewed for the Palm Beach Post
Okay.
who knew my skills and they were familiar with well how I worked. I either reached out to them or they reached out to me saying, hey, we've heard that there's this opportunity online, and to do this or that and the other. Back then I was also salsa dancing just to keep my
Oh,
sanity, and I would take my kids. There was no booze, nothing. The kids
of course you
loved it.
were.
Yeah, and the kids loved it. And I met people there. And there was this guy that he was a young entrepreneur. And he's like, oh, I saw on Facebook that you're a writer. And I'm like, yeah. And he's like,
Mm.
well, I need someone to write for my blog. And I'm like, oh, woo, I can make money writing again. He says, but the blogs have to be SEO friendly. And I was like, oh, say
What's
what?
that? Right. And you figured it out, though.
Exactly. And
Figured it out.
very, very quickly after that, I mean, he was paying me like $5 per or $10 a pop. And that was nothing, but it was a lot for me who was making $0. And from there, somebody gave me a heads up that about.com, which then belonged to the New York Times, and now is called dash.com or something like that, or dot dash, that they were looking for experts, quote unquote, for different sections, and they needed Spanish speaking experts. And I applied to the mom section. And it was so freaking hard back then. You
Oh,
had to learn
got it.
HTML, you had to learn how to make a website, you had to learn SEO, everything. And it was grueling. It was like a month and a half of that. And I thought, if I don't get this gig, I will know everything I need to know to do my own thing. I got the
Amazing.
gig. I got the gig. It paid very little, $650, but I cried because that was a lot for me back then.
Wow.
And from there on, it was like online was just happening.
Right. And you were
And
learning it on the job in a
oh my
sense,
God,
right? So
yes,
then you were,
always. That's my whole life.
yes, yes, we're very the same in that way. Very, oh my God. At some point, I
Ay,
probably have to
ay,
do a
ay.
podcast about that, about myself, because I was always grabbing from my jobs and learning and watching the people running the business to learn how to run a business. So, and those skills they're not always findable on like by Google. It's like living
No.
them, right? Yes.
So to try and, because I'm also Spanish and talk a lot and go on tangents, I will try to stick to this.
You're
So
good.
the fast part of that is that after having this gig, people again that I had been in journalism, they were starting to need people online, and they knew that I had these skills because they could see me using them online. And then I rather quickly became the editor-in-chief as a contractor. I always like to make that distinction because I don't like jobs, as I repeat a lot. And I was the editor-in-chief of a then successful Latina mom website. It was in English and then in Spanish. And I managed pools of writers, I
Right.
managed budgets, I managed goodness, the people who are advertising on the
Right.
website. And I was like seeing the amounts of money these people were
There you
throwing
go.
out the window. Like
Right.
they used to pay the writers so much money and me a lot of money that I was like, this guy's, it's not going to last that long. And then eventually, when I was almost 50, I was like, you know what? I want to do my own thing. I
Yes.
really
And you
want to do
saw
my
it.
own thing. And I thought, what can I do in the next 5 to 10 years? Of course, now it's been 5 and it's been 10. In the next 5 to 10 years, that I really love and that I am good at. And that on the worst days that I hate everything, because that happens to every one of us, I will
Yes.
still do it.
You will still do them. That is so the key because that becomes what your passion that drives you and that keeps you going where even if you're not making money, you're interested in doing it. then that's what you should be doing. So, in order to connect the dots, because rather than have you go through your entire timeline and then we don't get to the part we want to get to, I have an
Yes,
idea.
yes, yes.
So, I almost want to jump to right now,
Okay.
and then we're going to connect the dots. So,
Hmm.
right now, as a content creator,
Hmm.
can you tell me the places, the way, how you make money? Do you have multiple revenue streams? Do you have one? And then what I'm going to do is connect the dots with how you connected from then to now. So just so everybody understands now, the way you have monetized to make this a full-time job, you make money from boom, go, take it.
Hmm. So it has morphed over the years. Right this second, my biggest source of income is sponsored posts. That being said, if you've noticed, 95% of my content is not sponsored. Okay.
And why
So
is
I'm
that? I love that.
because because first of all, I don't like to follow people who are selling something in every single post.
There you go.
I'm more of a storyteller. I am more of somebody who wants to share their life and things that will help other people. And because the budgets that are managed right now, I am able to live off of that and do whatever the hell I want with the 90% of my
The
content that's
rest of
not
the
sponsored.
content. Bravo. Because this explains why a lot of people unfollow when they start seeing sponsored posts, sponsored posts, sponsored, but then it's like, oh, this person's just doing it for the money and they don't really even like the thing, or they're just doing this just because that's all their content now. And I think they lose their audience. So you're very smart. And I've noticed for you in particular, you share on your story a lot. And I
I
love
do.
that. And that's a common thread with another one of our guests, Gina from Skinny Taste. Also,
Mhm.
she is a huge cookbook author, but every day story posts very personal. So she feels like she's my friend, just like
Right.
you are the friend to your followers because they're coming along on your journey. Do you think
Correct.
that's how you've maintained the loyal audience? Do you think that that has
Yes.
contributed to that?
Yes. I have people that I've been in touch with for a decade or longer before I had my own brand. And the fact that we have conversations on the side and sometimes very heavy conversations, because
Mm.
it could be something that I could give a nuance as to we're
We
having
have.
some trouble at home or whatever, but people kind of understand what it means and they ask me and I'll tell them. Maybe I won't say it in public because it pertains to my kids or whatever,
Yes, yes.
but then we get into these deep conversations and I mean, makeup and all that is wonderful, but that's not my main focus. My focus is mental health, physical health, wellness, and so many other things that I think are vital to just being alive.
And then did you enjoy doing a lot of, because you did say that you were very involved with social media for social good. And is that
Yes.
a big is that important to you still?
Very much so. I will lend my voice and have lent my voice to, there's an organization called Moms Rising, which is specifically geared towards helping improve mothers' quality of life. And I was very involved in the Hispanic community and helping people, this is not political, but get out the vote. That's it.
Hmm.
Just help Spanish
Yes.
speakers understand that they have to do that. And I would sit and write postcards. I've been taken to Washington, D.C. I've gone to the Capitol to do things like this. And it was very, very cool. I was invited by St. Jude to see the Children's Cancer
Oh,
Hospital and be able to get out the word of why people should donate and learn stories one-on-one. I mean, for that, I charge nothing for
I was
that.
just going to say
Oh my
that
God,
those are
no,
the
no,
things where I think people a lot of times think that influencers are getting paid. And typically
no,
those are the things
no.
that they're doing because they love it.
I want to.
Yeah,
I
you want
want
to
to.
do
And
it.
I help small businesses, like even local businesses, have, if they offer to send me something, often I will say, no, thank you, but I
Hmm.
will promote your business
Oh,
because I can't guarantee that somebody's going to buy their whatever flowers or
right,
something.
right.
But if they're nice about it and we're just small businesses. I'm a small business. I know how hard it is.
All right. Now
So because of this,
yes.
the getting the big sponsors that I have no qualms collecting the money from, quite honestly, because I have big budgets, I can do whatever the hell I want for the little people who
Love
aren't
that.
little people, but you know what I'm saying, that they don't
Yes,
have the
the people
budget.
that don't have the big budgets. So
Yeah.
you enlightened me. One of I remember this conversation specifically about how to think about the brand sponsorships because I was like, oh, doesn't it feel hard? Don't you struggle with doing that when you know you're trying to sell? And I want
Nope.
you to share your perspective because it was very unique. So do tell.
So I
How do
can't
you think of
remember
it?
what I said, but what I think of is that I'm not selling anything to my followers. I don't care if they buy the thing I'm talking about or not. My money that's coming in my pocket is going to be the same. My affiliates are so tiny, like I always say, and it's true that I suck at affiliates. I have a couple that do okay, but that's it. I mean, the LTK, all that does not work for me. I have
Oh
it
my
just
God.
for the hell of it, and also because you can get brand deals through them. But honestly, I don't mind if you buy this or you don't buy that. So I'm not selling
Right.
anybody anything. So they see the ad, and it looks like an ad very often, and increasingly so as things get more stringent.
Sure. They make
But
rules for this.
but they don't, my real good followers don't care, you know?
Yeah.
And the people who I don't know, I don't care
You don't
whether
care.
they enjoyed it or not. And it just gives me so much freedom. And
Right.
obviously, what I do is work with brands that either I use or I do a lot of awareness, and I do a lot of awareness around health. So
Mm.
if I've ever had a health issue, I'm going to have talked about it. Like my mother
Hmm.
had a stroke when she was 28, so I've worked with the American Heart Association.
Right.
My dad had a quadruple bypass, and I almost had colon cancer, and blah 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 blah. So all these
Mm.
things, if it's to raise awareness, of course I would do it for free. But if they're paying me, of course I'm going to do it. You know,
Yeah.
it's
Awareness.
just there's so
Yeah.
much more than just makeup.
No, no. And you really you opened my eyes because the whole time I think a lot of influencers struggle with this idea of the selling out. Like now I'm going to be doing sponsored posts and people think they have to buy it. And this other pressure, which I'm going to add. I have seen on TikTok, more on TikTok than Instagram though, where people are sending the post when they get a sponsored deal, they send it and then they go, "Oh, please interact with this post because it's a sponsored deal and they want to get interaction on it." And they're constantly like begging for the engagement on a post because they want to make it as if it's valuable to the advertiser. And that's just the whole point is just moot at there when it comes to that. Because if you have to beg for the engagement, it's not real engagement. So it's silly and it's a waste of time. I don't even understand the
So
strategy.
let me tell you something that it doesn't really matter. That engagement, because several things happen. Brands know that as soon as you put a paid tag on your post, it's not going to get the great engagement that other posts get just because you put paid on it.
Yeah,
That's
you
it.
have to,
The
right? You have to do.
algorithm, the whatever, but they know this. So what I get paid for, in addition to just the fee of do this reel or whatever, is whitelisting. So
Uh-huh.
then the brand has access to my channels, and it's not only Instagram. I have Facebook. I have 3 Facebook pages. I have, well, there's YouTube, there's
Mm-hmm.
Pinterest, there's a blog, there's all these channels that nobody on Instagram sees or knows about. And then the brand pays me to have
Ah,
access to those channels. And then they run an ad, but they're reaching an audience that
because
they would
they're
not
paying for it.
reach.
So
Exactly. They pay
yes.
me for
They
access to my channel.
Oh wait, they're paying you for access to your channel.
So they
And
run
then
an ad
it
that
goes to
is
your channel.
no,
No, it's on their channel, right? When you're
no.
whitelisting, where is it then?
It's on the internet, but it's not on my feed. And
Okay.
it looks like it's coming from me.
Oh, is that how
So
whitelisting works?
yes, yes,
Oh, I'm
yes,
learning something. I always
yes.
thought it was you either do the ad and then they run it on their channel, but it's
Mm-mm,
your face so that
no.
you're recognizable to some people or relatable to some people. Well, that I'm sure some of it is that, but that's not whitelisting. So whitelisting is it looks like it's coming from Lorraine Ladish. Literally, it looks like
Yes,
it's coming
yes,
from
yes,
your account,
yes.
but it's not on your feed and it's an
No.
ad that they run.
Yes, yes. But in addition, maybe I did post it on my feed. Maybe I
Hmm.
didn't. Like
If
there's a lot that I do that people don't even
Oh
see.
wow, my
Not
God.
people, my followers don't see it.
Okay.
And then I see the reach that it got. Like last year, I did a campaign that I basically, like the work on my side was almost nothing. And
Hmm.
I got paid, some people get, that's their salary. And I
Oh
was like,
my
I can't
God.
believe this. I was
This
so
is
grateful
amazing. Right. So grateful.
because
Now let's
honestly,
talk
the work
about
was
this.
almost nothing on my
Yeah,
side.
no, let's talk about this because now we're almost working our way backwards in the timeline. But you had to at some point make the leap into getting an agent.
Hmm.
So I'm sure you didn't have an agent in the beginning when you first
No.
started. So
Mhm.
I want to know, when did you make a transition? What was happening that caused you to say, I just can't do this anymore? Because we all know content creators, you're your own financial manager, you're a salesperson, you're a director, a producer, you're a videographer. Now you have your husband. We'll talk about that. But yeah, you're playing all these roles. And at some point you had to say, I can't do this anymore. Someone else has to manage this part because it's too much. And when did that happen? And what was the trigger?
So it was a couple of years into what I was doing because I made it work financially right away. That's a story for another day. But it happened. Like I was monetizing the first year, and I had told Phil, I said, I don't know if we're ever going to make any money. Boom, first year I replaced my salary as editor in chief. But that's just, again, that's its own
Crazy.
story. But then within less than 2 years, I think I was on a phone call with a PR agency, and I knew the people because I had been, working with them in a different capacity. And they're offering me this gig with it was a commercial, and I had to go to Miami and have it shot. And basically, I was talent.
Nice.
And they're like, well, what's your fee? And I'm like, what the hell do I know what
Oh,
my fee is? So anyway, I made this figure up, and I think I said 3,500. And I thought that was a lot of money. And then they're like cornering me into giving them an answer right there, which now I realize is stupid,
of
but
course.
on
Right.
my side anyway. And so they kind of mute themselves and they come back and they're like, okay, we'll pay you that. And if you throw in a blog post, we'll give you 1,500 more. And I was like, oh my God, I undersold
I
myself.
undersold.
They were
Yes.
not only that, I talked to the talent that I happened to know that was there. We were all different ages. We were all Hispanic, but we were all different ages and from 20s to my age back then, 50 maybe or 52. And we were all getting paid completely different things.
Mm.
And it had nothing to do with our following.
Oh
And I'm
my
like,
God.
oh my God, I need somebody else to do this. I cannot
Yes.
be doing this. And so it still is the Wild West. I mean,
Yeah, it
it's
still
the
is.
name of the game is the brand will try and get away with as little as possible. You're trying to get paid as much as possible. And it was true back then as well. And I did not want to spend my time and energy doing that.
To figuring
And
it out too, because you have to figure it
another,
out and then
yeah,
fight for
yeah,
it.
yes. And excuse me while I talk to myself if I'm going to accept this, it's like, no, that
Exactly.
doesn't make sense. So I tried different things. I actually got a friend, a colleague, much younger than myself, probably around Julie's age. And I said, I'll give you 30% if you deal with this.
Mm,
But then it was like being her mom and she wasn't doing anything. I'm like,
mm.
man, I'm just giving away 30%. So I started there were no agents back then. There was no such thing as an influencer agent, and the word influencer didn't exist. So I just started asking around, and finally, well, first of all, people just wanted to change my media kit. And I'm like, no, my media kit, and maybe it's crappy, but I'm getting work. I have
Right. You're
work.
getting
What
work.
I
Right.
need is someone to help me do this.
Hmm.
And finally, at this Spanish social media conference, somebody gave me a lead and said, well, we had the speaker and blah, blah, blah person, Joanna Voss, represents her, and she sure can negotiate. I'm like, okay, who is this person?
Who
So I
is this? And
Googled
she
her.
sure is your agent now,
Oh my
right?
God, we've been
She's
together for
amazing.
7 years.
Good for you.
We're in
I
our
love
eighth
that.
year.
I love that.
And, but here's the funny part is that when we got together, I paid her money to give me a strategy session. I flew her out to Sarasota, Florida, where I live, from Denver, where she lives. And as we were speaking, because I also wanted to make more money speaking and figuring out how else I was going to make an income to diversify, because we're always trying to do that. And I had an inbound request. Nearly,
All at the
I
same
would say
time. Yeah.
98% of my work comes from inbound requests, meaning
Hmm.
that I don't pitch, they find me. So that happened, and she was with me, and there were two different things. And one of them, I said, would you please deal with this? And she did. Boom, boom, boom. She did a proposal, whatever, whatever, asked for double or triple what I would have asked for. And they accepted it like within an hour.
And
And
you
I'm like,
said,
are you
this
kidding
is
me? I
what I
said, would
need.
you be
Right.
my agent?
This is what you needed.
And
Amazing.
she didn't understand what that meant. And now she has 7 other people or 6 other
Oh,
people. She's made I mean, but I recognize in her that willingness to
you
learn.
saw it. You saw it in her, and now
Yeah.
you have given her like wings
Yes.
to fly. Love that. Oh my
And we
gosh.
support each other.
Great
And I will
story.
always
Great,
intro her to whoever
great
needs an
story.
agent because she is really, really amazing. And
Great story.
I mean,
That's full
so
circle.
she
Beautiful.
took me, I mean, she earns 20, doesn't take, she earns 20% of what I make. But
I love it.
recently we had this conversation with the other talent. We have a monthly meetings and we have mastermind retreats and stuff. And she was telling us that lately, per brand deal that we get, there could be 76 to 100 emails going between her and the brand.
Oh my God.
You know how much time that saves me
That's such
and
time.
energy?
That's such time.
Like she
That's
really earns that
yes.
20%.
And I think that what you just stated is that's what content creators are dealing with because those who don't have agents,
Mm-hmm.
that's what they're dealing with. So we're actually getting a question related to this. So I almost want to
Mm-hmm.
stop and just take this
Yeah, yeah.
question right now. So Krista has asked, what is your advice on how to get sponsors for posts? And do you seek it or do they target and reach out to you? So you've just said most of them
Yeah.
come to you. But
I
in the
would say
beginning,
98%. The
98%.
same.
But
The
in the
same.
beginning, so it was people saw your feed
Yeah.
and there was something and maybe you were in early. So maybe like
Well,
as an older creator even back
first
then.
of all, there were not very many women saying I'm 50 years old and I love it.
Right. That yeah.
People ask me, why are you pigeonholing yourself? What are you going to do in 10 years? And it turned out that it worked.
And
And I
PS, it's
was
10 years and look at you
It's 10
now.
years later and look at me and no, I'm not
Woo.
doing Viva 60. I'm keeping Viva 50 because I'm still over 50. And, but to the point of that, I was always very good at keeping my relationships the same way that you, and I hear it on your podcast, that you're getting work because
Yes.
maybe not as an influencer, but you're
Mm,
getting work related to your skills. And my
yes.
skills were that if I say I'm going to do something, I do it. If you're going to ask me for a deadline, I'm going to meet it.
That's a
If you
skill.
have these, it
That,
is.
and not a
Nowadays,
lot of
half
people have that skill,
like
Lorraine.
90% of it is showing. I know this because I've been an editor too, and I've had to run after people.
Yes.
And so if you are professional and people see that you're being professional, like I did a launch on Twitter. Back then, Twitter was important and we made money on Twitter parties and all the rest of it. I had a launch online. I invited everybody I knew from PRs, from this and that and the other. And whenever they saw, oh, there's something for an over 50 woman who's Hispanic, let's ask Lorraine. But of course, the difference is that back then they offered me $200 and I thought it was a fortune. And
Mm,
now that's nothing like compared to
right.
what
That's what we like to
I
hear.
get
That
paid now.
that's amazing. Do you still love making content in the same way you
Yes,
did? Okay, good.
yes,
That's what I
yes.
love to
The
hear.
answer is yes. But remember that's why I prefaced it at the beginning saying I have always been a content creator all my life.
Mhm.
I even feel, and I think you and I have talked about this, I feel like I grew up with the internet. I didn't.
Right,
The
right.
internet came around
I
when I
feel
was in
like
my
I did too.
30s, right?
Same.
I telecommuted, it's like
That's
I
right.
worked for myself. I've had my LorraineCLash.com webpage since for 30 years. I was
Amazing.
30 very little, So the thing is that I remember in my first year or second year, maybe the beginning of the second year, and I got my first year-long sponsorship, and they reached out to me from a brand of lenses for glasses. And I said, would you like to see my media kit? And they said, no, we know who you are. And I was like, oh my God. I told Phil, they said they know who I am.
Oh,
Whatever. I didn't want to ask anything else. And so what I would say is create content that will make brands notice you, because there are women that have all this big following. And you've said it a number of times, and they're
mm-hmm.
not making absolutely any money. And there are people like Auden.
Austin Tasson.
Yes.
Yeah.
So who, like you were saying that her entire following was not as big, but I don't always get hired because of my following. I get
Mm-hmm.
hired because our pictures are good. And so we take pictures and we sell them. We license our pictures. We get hired as talent because they can see I'm comfortable on camera and that I I'm able to deliver this or that. So Phil and I, as a couple, have been hired as talent and flown out to places and recorded videos,
Mm,
which of course I don't post on my feed because that's not what that's about. Because I'm a certified yoga teacher and I was a fitness instructor when I was younger, and I share about that. I've been hired by AARP to create videos for their website. First, they flew me out to do it in DC. And then during the pandemic, I filmed them at home, which was not easy, but we
right.
did it. And it lives on AARP. So what I mean is that there's not only just one way of thinking about one's presence online. It doesn't have to be only creating content. It could be a bunch of other things. And that's why I tell people it's not all about the follows, it's not all about the
Right.
likes. It's about the quality of the work you deliver. Like we
Yes.
recently went on this sponsored cruise. Do you think I was lying around sipping margaritas?
I know. That's the thing that
No.
also people realize that you're working.
I
And
had a blast,
yes,
but
but
we're
you're editing content at night and you're making sure you get the shots and
yes,
you have to think about all those
yes.
things.
And
Like,
I am grateful that my husband is my second husband and hopefully the last one and forever one. He is a professional photographer. He's a
yes, you lucked out with
novelist.
that. You
I
really lucked
did.
out with that.
He hates taking my picture. I'll have to say that. We argued at the very beginning. It wasn't very smooth working together. It was a mess. But we had to learn it because he was like, okay, so working for the New York Times, daily rate is 250. Taking a picture of me in the backyard is about $2,000 to $3,000.
Uh,
So what do you think he's gonna do?
yes, yes,
Like he
yeah.
chooses taking my picture and putting up with my bossy self.
Yeah, it's true. And you have really you have evolved to a point where you can make it happen. You're about quality. And I think that brands
Hmm.
see that right away
Yeah.
because you can see sometimes I deal with clients now on the other side, as you were saying, I get a lot
Yeah.
of work through TikTok now for my production work.
Yeah.
And I will have the same thing where I'll be talking to clients and they'll be talking about influencers they're working with and how much of a disaster it is because they're not getting the type of content that they wanted. And it's really like throwing a dart. Like a lot of them will talk about it because I'm hearing it from the other side because I'm shooting their commercials or their slick social media content. And they talk about it all the time, how difficult it is and the different agencies that they have to work with. And you probably experienced some of these agencies in the beginning before you had an agent. Did you go into those agencies at all,
I
or that was
actually
even
still work with them because this is what happens. I am signed up to every possible influencer platform.
okay? And your agent did that
Everyone.
for you, or you did that for
Oh,
yourself?
hell no, I didn't. No, she gave us a list and we just all signed
You got to
up.
do
It's
it. Okay, yeah,
horrible. But they
yeah,
find you there, but it doesn't mean that they're going to hire you through there.
right.
So
Ah, I
maybe
see.
you're findable there and they're looking because all the parameters are woman over, in my case, woman over 50
Mm.
or over
And then they
60 right
approach you
now.
privately.
And then they
Yeah.
approach you privately
Okay,
and they
that is a
just
lesson.
use it is yes, please
Big
sign up to
lesson.
all of them, all of them. I don't care if you have 5 followers or a million, because also user generated content, which is another thing that I've
Hmm.
done. And I tell people like I use the hashtags on my content that I want to, how would I say this? They're aspirational hashtags.
Ah,
I use UGC creator before I had ever done one single piece of UGC
ooh, I
content.
love that. Fake it till you make it kind of social media
Yes.
version.
Yes. And then I got hired to be a UGC creator.
Love that.
Then I also use over 60, before over
Hmm.
50 modeled because I had this idea that I wanted to do modeling, but turns out that I don't have the look they're looking for because I don't have gray hair or don't wear my hair gray or whatever. But
Right.
anyway, but the point being that you can be, because people are, my gosh, Phil and I got cast twice. Nothing has happened. And I think it's not going to happen. So I want to say it, for 2 different reality TV shows.
Oh, right.
I don't know if I was
I
excited
know it's
about it.
so
I don't.
scary because I got approached for one and the same as
Oh,
you. I'm
really?
like, be careful what I wish
Yeah.
for because I'm like, what if I don't know if I want that? And so I was almost
Right.
happy not to get it because like
Yeah.
it's exciting, but it's also okay, what a relief I didn't get that.
Well, I was thinking of, oh, the followers and they'll make more money. But then it was like,
Uh,
what if we divorce? This
or
was
what if it's
about.
like, so this brings me to
Oh,
the haters because we got to talk about
oh
it
yeah.
because you
Yeah. Yeah.
listened
Yeah.
to one of my podcasts where I talked about getting negative comments, which I
Yeah.
didn't get a lot of. And then you also came and sent me voice messages after that podcast and
Yes.
you were like, I want to talk to you about the haters and this is what happened to me. So tell everybody here your experience with haters, how you deal with it, and what has that been like? Has it been challenging to your ego?
Well, I think I'm like you that I'd like to think it's not going to bother me, and for the most part, it does not. And especially since I'm older and I have at 20, I don't think I could have dealt with it. I had an
Mm,
eating disorder, mental health problems. I was depressed. I mean,
yes,
like clinically,
different.
I don't think I could have dealt with it back then. But being 60 right now, and my mental health is pretty good, and my self-confidence is pretty good. However, my regular followers aren't usually mean. I will
Hmm.
say they're just not. But if a post goes viral and you know
Viral,
that, YouTube, Facebook, especially on Facebook, they're older people.
crazy.
And the hate could be the oddest thing is that, I do these walking videos in beautiful dresses or stuff like
Hmm.
that because they're actually very, like I got 500,000 views the other day on one of those. And then I'm like
What?
5 hours doing this video and it gets like a
I
thousand.
know. It's ridiculous. I feel
So
your
in
pain.
those videos, they're like, she's probably never worked a day in her life. Look at how she moves her hands. Oh, she must be paraplegic. I mean, they say these things like,
Oh
oh, she
my,
must have Parkinson's. All these things, and I was like, whoa, what's wrong with? And then they argue with each other,
oh my
about.
God.
So when I start getting a bunch of, and I don't have notifications set for social media or I go bananas.
Yeah,
But
right.
sometimes when I go to Facebook, and it's happened on TikTok too a couple times, and I don't have a big following there. But when the virality happens, it's usually not for a good, like the way I moved my foot in a dance video with Phil. It was like, oh, look at her with that foot. Well, that was like forget that I was talking
Discussion.
about the fact that I had found love after losing everything and I was happy. They were
Oh
focused on how I was
God.
dancing
Oh
or
my
that he was
God.
going to leave me for a younger woman, or that I was
Oh,
a kept woman. And mostly it's from women that I've had a facelift, which I have not had. And, just all kinds of mean
stuff.
stuff
It's
like that.
nuts.
And then if it catches you on a bad day, and
Yeah,
you
it could
know
really it could
about
really
that,
damage you on a bad day. Absolutely.
your
Because you just start
brain is like,
you start obsessing on it and you're like, what's wrong? And I think I told you that one somebody commented on my legs or something like, what's wrong with my
yes,
legs? I never had, and
yeah.
for a minute there, I was questioning my legs. I was like, should I get them
Do you
looked at?
want to know the
Just
thing that
so
I get
absurd.
told the most when they want to be hurtful to me?
What?
That I look like Steve Tyler in drag.
Oh my
This
God.
the For the younger people, he's the singer of Aerosmith. He's the
Oh
father of
my.
Liv Tyler. So I was like, well, I happen to think he's pretty good looking.
Yeah, take that.
But they're like with the hair, the big mouth, whatever. They're like, oh my God, you're like
Right.
Steve Tyler in drag. And I
Oh
get a
my.
lot of those. And I was like, man, people are really mean.
Yeah, people can be
So,
really mean. It's really you find them on the internet. I don't get as many mean women as I do either young people, young guys, or
oof,
older men will be
oh
I
my
will
God.
get like, oh, get a job. Oh, you should get a life. You give this woman something to do. And I'm like, they should only know what I'm doing. If they only knew.
But
It's comedy.
I had to look, I bought a subscription to The Atlantic just to read an article about how to deal with trolls. That's how bad I was one day. Not that The
Yeah.
Atlantic isn't interesting, but it was like, I don't want another subscription. And I
Wow.
read it and they were like, you can't engage with trolls because they're not regular people.
They're not. And they're just
They
sitting there behind their
thrive,
keyboard and
yeah.
they're
And
trying to
maybe
get a
some
rise
guy in
out of
his
you.
basement and just
Mm,
completely whatever's wrong with him. Because I'm
true.
thinking, even when I disagree, and I think this is probably true for you too, online with someone, I don't say anything.
Yeah.
Why? Doesn't make it this
Why?
my I have other
The times that I've used it, Lorraine, is when there's a funny trend. And then I'm like, oh my God, that comment would be so good for a trend.
yes.
And that's when I do it. And then people come to my defense and they're like going after the person. I was just doing it because it was funny. I don't even really, and a lot of times I'll hide the person because I'm like, I don't even need to
Yeah.
bring this person any attention, but whatever.
Yeah.
It's so frustrating. Do you make all your own videos? I know Phil helps you film some things, but do you put them in your phone? Do you edit? Do you have an editor? How do you manage your
I
content?
do it myself, and I do it myself because, and I do it on my phone. Phil and I are actually starting a new channel called Unlikely Detours, only
Ooh,
for travel, because we are now
mm,
empty nesters almost, and we get to travel more than we used to. And since we get hired together because of his
love it.
beautiful pictures, we decided to start this together. I don't know if we'll make money with it again or not, but we've already traveled. We
Right.
still keep traveling. So we're just doing this. And I taught him, I started teaching him how to post reels,
There you
and
go.
he edits on his desktop because he prefers Premiere
Right.
Pro, is it? I do it all on my phone. And one of the reasons is because I enjoy it.
Mm.
And because I'm 60 years old
He's
and I need to keep my brain sharp
sharp.
and
It
happy and engaged.
does. It does
Yeah.
help you. It does help you stay current.
Hmm.
It keeps your mind sharp because I think the app's constantly changing. That's why I always have something to teach, Lorraine. I
Yeah.
never get bored because I'm like, guess what? They just changed this feature. I can make a new video or they added this thing. And I love to do the things myself. You know that because I love doing those
Yep.
transitions. And when I can do the transitions as well as the younger people that are, launching, they're starting the trend, it just makes me feel really good. I love
I
it.
just bought an Insta 360 camera. I don't know if you know what
Oh,
that is.
I do. I did the commercial for the
It's
Fuji.
You
And oh
did?
God, the original the original was Instax or something, but it's the same brand, right? Isn't it? Fuji? Yeah, same
This
brand. I
one's
worked with them.
Insta 360 X4, the latest one. It's crazy. And it
Wow,
took me a while to buy it because everybody was saying how hard it was to edit with it. And as soon as I wrap my brain around it, I'm like, this is wild. Not only can I do this, this is very enjoyable
it's so
because you can
good,
get,
right?
because it records in 360 and you
Oh,
can grab
I
whatever.
have to get
Oh
one of
my
those
God, you're
now.
going to love it. If you
Yes.
get it, I think you'd love it. It's very good for solo creators. So,
Oh, I love that. That's fun. So, all right. So Phil's now doing his Premiere Pro thing. I love that he's
mhm.
embracing it and he's going to take maybe
I don't know
a
if
little
he's
bit.
embracing it, but
He
but he
will
prefers
embrace
it to
it.
doing a bunch of other stuff.
He
So,
will
and we have,
embrace it.
I mean, it's a lifestyle for us. So it's like,
Yes.
and we don't take it for granted.
I find that being on the phone editing gives me more leisure flexibility
Hmm.
about it. It doesn't feel as much
Yeah.
like work because I could be online somewhere. Or if I'm stuck, charging my car, I can be editing a video for 20 minutes while the car's charging. So I do find it
Yeah.
a way to keep it more fun and not make it work. The minute I put it into a laptop, when I'm sitting at my laptop, I feel that it's more like work. So I
I
try
just don't know how to do it. I'm going to be quite honest. I
on the
never
laptop.
mastered it. No, I
Oh,
never
I had to
mastered
evolve
that.
from the
So,
laptop because through the years it was like,
right.
iMovie, then Final Cut, then Premiere. So yeah, it's funny.
The camera is the Insta 360
Insta.
X4.
Oh,
It's
great.
crazy amazing.
All right. So if you have questions for Lorraine, start putting them in the chat and we'll start taking the questions. You can put them right into the chat. You don't have to put them in the Q&A if you don't want to. I want to know, is there anything how do you keep organized and how much do
Oh
you work
boy.
in a week? Do you feel that you work
Oh,
like a
I don't know.
full-time job hours? You ever thought about it or it just doesn't feel like work because it's
Because again, I think it's just because I've always worked for myself and kept my own hours. Like I've always refused, even when I was managing somebody else's website, I
mm-hmm,
said, don't call me at 9 to see if I'm working, I'll get the stuff
mm-hmm.
done. So I don't know. I've
You
never
don't
really
know. Yeah,
known.
it's
Like I
so
work a
funny.
lot, but I also rest a lot. I sleep a lot. Yeah, that's the
Right.
camera. But I have no idea because a lot of the times, like for example, when we're traveling, a lot of it is people, how would I explain this? People could think, oh my God, that's so much work, but
Mm-hmm.
we're actually enjoying it. Of
You're
course, we
enjoying
don't
it.
enjoy every freaking second. There are
Right,
things that
right.
are very irksome,
Yeah.
but I don't enjoy it when a client comes back with all these little nitty gritty changes after they approved my initial concept
Mm-hmm.
and now they want this and that. But I try to be easy to work with. I'm not a jerk, you know.
Okay. So do you have like a content calendar? Do you say I'm going to post 3 times a week? What do you
So
have that or that's just all
when I started Viva 50, I had systems. That was very important for me. I had a publication calendar for the blog, and I had my Facebook and Pinterest and Twitter, and everything was
Hmm.
because that way, and I do have people help me. I do have somebody who does my Pinterest and somebody who does my even Twitter still, my Facebook, and the things that I dislike doing. I don't like to do Pinterest. I don't enjoy spending time there. So I have people who do that. I hired writers because I set it
Mm.
out as a magazine.
Oh.
So I do have people doing a number of things that I personally don't enjoy doing. But for the things that I enjoy, I keep saying I'm like you or you're like me, but it's true. I'm not so much like Julie who plans everything. I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to post now? You know?
Exactly. That's more
Unless
like
it's
me.
sponsored. Yeah, unless it's sponsored. And then I know that tomorrow, for
There's an
example, I'm
agenda.
posting
Yes,
something
of
for a good
course.
RX, which is actually going up tomorrow for real. And then sometimes I'm more organized. So I'm a little bit by the seat of my pants, but that's how I've always been. And I don't think it's going to change. And at the same time, it kind of that's the energy that I need. I mean, I've
Right.
been posting on Instagram for 13 years, 13 years
Wow.
every week. I have
That's
thousands of posts in there, thousands. And at the beginning, it didn't matter. We didn't have a strategy. Instagram was not a place where if you go down there and see my first post, they have nothing to do with what I'm doing now. But
right.
what I mean is that you have to have a certain kind of character to keep up with this
Relentless is
when
the
when
word.
nobody's even
My
looking at it.
my favorite word is relentless because
Yes.
that's the person who wins, the person who just keeps going and doesn't let anything discourage
Mm-mm.
them and anything kind of get in their way. And you
But
have it,
there
obviously.
are days that, of course, you're like, oh my God, I don't know. Should I get a job after I've not had one for 40 years? You know? But then I'm like, first of all, I'm unemployable. And second, it's I don't want that. And Phil
All
is
right,
the same.
so I love this. So
Oh,
so you're saying like you do have the days where you feel that way. I'm not going to say that you're
yes.
ever going to take them on, but what would be something that causes that? Like, can you give us an example? I know today you said you had a doozy
Oh,
of a day. I don't, maybe if you want to
yeah.
talk about that
Yeah,
or
it's
talk about
fine.
something that makes you think that way.
Well, sometimes, for example, my goodness, another source of revenue that I didn't mention is ads, programmatic ads on the website, which I started
Okay.
doing in 2019. Have you
That's
heard
like
what's
on your
going on?
blog, meaning like with
Yes,
the, and
yes,
when you
on
say
the blog.
programmatic ads, you means like an AdSense thing where they're putting ads
Yes,
automatically?
yeah.
Okay.
It's not AdSense, it's Mediavine in my case, but you've
Okay.
talked about AdThrive or Mediavine. There's a number of others. So I'm in Mediavine since 2019, which was unfortunate because in 2020, all these algorithm changes happened and
Mm,
now they keep on happening. And I don't know if you've been hearing that everybody's talking about Google and how that's screwing up everything because now Google is prioritizing AI answers where if you say,
mm,
how do I cut my bangs? It's going to source from everywhere and give you the answer. You cut your bangs with scissors and you're not going to click and go to the different people who are telling you how to do that. So
mm.
suddenly tomorrow we actually have an agency meeting about this because
Oh,
everybody's losing all kinds of traffic on. So
oh
of
my
course that
God.
makes me want to shut down the blog and I've been
Right.
doing this for 10 years. Why is my blog tanking now? But I
Right.
have the sponsorships. But what if
Yeah.
TikTok shut, well, not for me, TikTok, but for you or
Yeah.
Vine. Vine went down the drain. I was viral
Yes.
on Vine at one
Mine
point,
went down the
but
drain. I
that
remember
went
it.
away, of course. And so on those days when, at the beginning of the pandemic, everything was kind of shut down and I panicked. But
Yeah.
for me, it was a really good year because I do wellness and exercise and all that. So in like
Right.
within a month, I had the best year of ever.
All right.
But so it's
Wow.
so fickle
It
that, as
is.
you well know from all aspects of what you do, that I know that it's a temporary feeling. When I don't like it
Mhm.
also, when a client owes me money and it's like 3 months behind, it's a lot
Mm.
of money.
And so your agent is not chasing that, or your agent
She
is, and it's
is,
just,
but that
yeah.
doesn't, well, she doesn't get paid until I get paid. So,
Right. So
of
she wants
course
to
she's
get the
gonna
money
do
too.
it. But
So,
it's happened. It's happened. It's
yeah.
something, but again, it's something I've done all my life. So I should be used to it by now, right? But
Yeah.
there are some things that I think it's like I don't know, it's a little bit masochistic because to do this, knowing that this can happen and does
Yeah.
happen, not
Yes.
everybody can handle that. But
No, I know.
I seem to be made that way.
It's good that you are. It's good. And the thing is, the operative word here is being able to pivot when you see
Yes.
something's going, just like you didn't really want to do reels, but it's like, guess
No,
what?
I didn't want to do it.
That's where the future is. So can you think about how you hated doing reels and do you still hate it or do you like
No,
it?
I love it.
You
I
love it.
love it.
Oh,
Not only
boom.
that, since I started a year and a half ago, Phil and I started improv classes and we did the whole series. And then I took acting classes. And now we're doing sketch writing. And, so
Amazing.
all of this helps me online, So
Amazing.
for me, it's like, when people ask me, like, what are you going to do in the next 5, 10 years? I have no clue. I
No
didn't know I
clue.
was going to do improv. Sketch
It's
right.
so great because I was gonna actually ask you, do you make a plan? That was my next question, and we're very much alike. And I'm learning Spanish, Lorraine. So pretty
I
soon we're gonna be able to do this
know, ya lo
interview in
sé,
En
ya lo
español,
sé.
por favor.
Sí,
La
hablaremos
próxima
español.
vez en español, okay? We'll
Sí,
do one for your
ah,
Spanish community when I'm
claro
good
que
enough.
sí, claro
Okay.
que sí.
But so you're very, very much the same in that we sort of follow the road and see where it's going to take us and pay attention to the signs.
Yes,
Right. And so
yes.
when this thing happened with TikTok, now, funny enough, when I think after 1 year of being on TikTok, I started to see people that were going, get on my email list, get on my email list. So even though I didn't have a plan to do an email list and or a plan for what I would do if I was going to have an email list, I was like, oh, I'm going to listen to them. Let's start gathering an email list. And I'm grateful that I did that back then because I do have a portion of the audience that is ownable, that's off the platform. And that's, I mean, do you pay attention to that much?
Yes,
Because you
yeah, I
have
have an
your,
email list too.
of course you
Just
do. You're no
but
dummy.
even no, but it's not even I might not be good at it, but I do try to at least have some the same way that I repost to TikTok. So I'm not on, but I've gotten TikTok activations and gotten paid for them. I have
Oh,
10,000 followers, which is
wow.
nuts. Okay, just
That's
for this is for you who has 100 million. So,
right.
so just know this, that if with a 10, with a, what did I say, 10,000 followers, I can get just only TikTok. You definitely can.
That's so crazy. So when you say activations, you're talking about
Sponsors, yeah.
brand sponsors.
Sponsors, sorry. Yeah, that's
Yeah. And so does that come through your agent or those people are contacting you directly because it's
so
TikTok?
really, honestly, and Joanna tells me this, and she's very open about it, is that most people come to me. They reach out to her just because that's how I want it. And I have it set out in every place that I'm on online. I say, please reach out to my agent. I have no
Right.
desire to do things myself.
Yeah.
That being said, I do have like the list of people we've worked with. I send them thank you notes. Like it's not like I'm, oh my God, I don't talk to them. I do. I'm very
Right.
involved in everything that happens. But honestly, most of what of my work is because they find me,
Yeah,
which
they
is
find you.
crazy.
And also, though, Lorraine, you have, I mean, I'm going to compliment the heck out of you, but you're gorgeous and you have a
Thank
vibe and you have
you.
the model
Oh my
figure and you wear
God.
the clothes and your posts are very, I will say sponsorable, even your non-sponsored content because you know the hair you know, and
Well,
and I'm not putting myself down by any means because I have value and I know obviously I wouldn't have a
of
million
course. Oh my
followers,
God,
but
please.
my value is different. I don't have necessarily a value to a makeup brand or a nail brand or a hair
Well,
brand
I'll
or
tell you
clothes.
what though, the least number of sponsors have ever come from clothes or makeup. I only worked with L'Oreal. I think that was my longest thing during COVID. I worked with a hair brand and I've done, I think, one paid clothes post. That's it.
Oh,
So
okay.
just so you know
But
that
you're
it's
so
not
like
like,
you to me I look at
but I
you, well
don't
I'm a
have the
director.
look.
Okay,
I
but I'm
don't
a
have the
director and I
look.
see you have the look.
Well, not the other people don't think so. But
Well, they're
here's
not
what's
smart.
different. What's different is that I don't let it get to me. For example, I had, and I think I sent this to you or I wrote it in somewhere, that years ago, somebody wanted me to meet the head honcho of brand XYZ that I use, and everybody uses, young people use it, older people, especially younger people. And they're like, let me introduce you to this person. But Lorraine has this website. Okay, fine. Doesn't give me a time of day. Somebody else tries, blah, blah, blah. This guy doesn't want to work with me.
Right.
I'm not going to shove myself down his throat.
Right.
I
The
don't
the end.
care.
The end.
That's
Right. You
it.
don't. Yes, that's a good attitude because
Roll
the
with
thing is
it. Like,
just roll with it. It doesn't matter. It's so interesting because I have been on the other side of this for my entire career. So until
like,
4 years ago I was not in front of a camera. So
oh man.
it's a very strange place for me. And so I see things through a different lens because I've been
Yes.
on that side. And so and I assess, like, I'll see people online and what they're doing. And I'm thinking, like, you are so marketable for so many brands. It's just
We'll
crazy to
tell
me.
them.
I'm going, they're stupid.
I'm kidding, but it's like I also heard you and Julie once talk about your dream brand. I have worked with dream brands,
Mm,
and but that doesn't mean it's great because maybe the
yeah.
PR is not good to work with. Maybe what they want out of the campaign is not what you can deliver. I'm not
Mm,
good at delivering clicks or
right.
sales. I already know this. So before, like we are very clear, and I've said no to campaigns,
Where
five-figure
it depended
campaigns.
on sales or
Yeah,
something like
and I
that,
said
right?
I
Yeah,
can't guarantee that. Or there
right.
was another one where I had to guarantee that someone was going to sign up to the $65,000 clinic. That's the cost of it.
What?
And my money was going to be very good. It was
Oh
almost
my
six
God.
figures. And I was like, but I couldn't sleep at night
Yeah, you
if
can't.
I thought
That's
that I had to deliver this.
yes.
So, so it's not like, oh, I want to work with my dream brand, but maybe it's a pain in the
Yeah,
butt.
maybe it ain't no dream.
No, exactly.
Maybe
So
it's a nightmare.
there's all these things that go into it, and then sometimes I'm like, why is that person working with this brand and I'm not? Well,
Oh
who
my.
cares? Maybe they're not getting paid. Anyway,
That's true.
I tell Phil, and we talk each other off ledges all the time because he's also like, look at this writer, he got this accolade, and I'm like, but you have
Yeah.
5 books behind you.
Yeah. Well, sometimes you can't help it because you're putting pressure on
Yeah,
yourself and you think,
yeah,
I mean, I know I'm as good as that person, or I don't know. Like, sometimes
yeah,
I'll see people featured on the news, like a
yeah,
TikToker doing such and such, and I'm thinking, why is that person on the news? It really actually confuses me sometimes. But I'm just like, whatever. I can't. You can't live your life that way.
no,
It's like stop looking out and just keep like look in and look forward and just live your life
yeah,
to for your potential. So
truly.
anyway, that's where I'm at. I would love to, before we wrap up, well, we don't have any major questions. So I'm just going to say what I would like you to share is, people might think, oh, you got into this so soon. It's too late for me.
Oh
There's no
no.
way I'm going to make it. So what advice would you have for someone that's maybe just starting to gain a following, just starting to gain traction? Thoughts on that? And
Be
would you have
consistent,
advice?
honestly, because I've had people say, "Oh, I'm not getting the brand deals," and then I look at their Instagram and they post once a month. Of course, you're not going to get brand deals. And don't do it for the brand deals. If you really share from the heart, then maybe you'll have to be honestly. I mean, of course, I have to sometimes read scripts, and I'm trying to learn how to read them without looking like I'm reading them.
Julie needs to give you some advice on that. She has to memorize all these comedy sets. I'm like, how does she
Oh
do it?
my God.
So
But it's
tough.
like to sound that, yeah. Well, Phil wants to do stand-up. We'll see. Maybe one day I'll join Julie on the stage. But
That'd be
it's
fun.
like, if how would I explain this? You have to look at it from the point of, like, when I started blogging in 2006, before I made money with it, I had a thing, I'm going to post twice a week and I'm going to do it like this. And it was called Success Diaries in the most unsuccessful time of my life. And I did it. And nobody was paying me and nobody was waiting for the
Mm,
post to go up. You have to be that person. If
yes.
you're not that person, like
Forget
if
it.
everything went to hell in a handbasket, I probably would continue posting.
Yes,
Oh, of
that's
course I
so
would
funny that you
continue.
say that. I have the same thing. And it's funny that every single person so far that we've had on this expert series says the same thing that
Mm,
if they didn't make money from it, they still would be doing it. And that
yeah.
is something that
I mean,
tells
I have
you
to find another way to make
to
money, but
make money, of course,
I would probably go back to journalism if I could, or writing for someone, or publish another book, which I don't even have time for because I spend all my brain cells online, so I don't have a book in my head at this point. But
Right.
you know,
No, you are incredible. I am so thankful for you joining us today and I mean, sharing your story from the beginning. And I know that we couldn't go through the exact timeline, but I feel that we really got
I
the
don't think it
meat of,
matters.
no, I think we got the meat of what you did, how you turned your life around, why it's working, and how you stay consistent, even though some days are not that great. And that's
Oh
something
no,
we
some
we
days
all
I
need
mean
to.
I've spent days in bed, and I've spent days like during the pandemic we had some personal issues at home, not between Phil and me, but were very heavy, and I've shot content where I was crying between takes. I kid you not.
I
But
know, I
you know how
believe
that
you.
is. You had cancer and
Yes.
and
I know
freaking
how
peed
that
online,
is.
and so then people are like, "Oh my God, how do you do that?" Because it's my work. Like if I had to
Yes.
go to an office, would I be like, "Oh, excuse me, I can't go"? No, I would still
Yes.
go. I mean,
No, you show
it's
up
your
and
work.
It's your character as
Oh, I'm
well.
sorry, I get all worked up with this.
I love it. You're awesome. We're gonna have to do part two, and so we
Oh
can
man.
cover more topics. But you are amazing.
Oh,
Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm
no,
gonna do
thank
my
you.
little, if you did land here via a podcast platform randomly, don't forget to subscribe to the newsletter at hellosocialize.com so that you get all the weekly updates and you're aware of the links and the things that we're going to share. And I will put in the show notes, Lorraine, any of the things. I'll put your handles, where to find you on all the socials. I'll put a link to your newsletter if people would like to subscribe. I get your newsletter. I get the Viva 50 newsletter all the time. And it's funny, I challenge myself to read the things that are in Spanish, by the way.
Oh boy, oh boy.
It's really helpful for my Spanish
Good, good,
studies.
good.
All right. Thank you so much for being with us today. I appreciate you so much.
I
Mwah.
appreciate you
Big
more.
hugs. And now I have your cell number, so watch out. I'll be texting you.
Same.
Dangerous. Okay.